Previously on Weirdflix.
Let's discuss, I think, the elephant in the room.
I'm a twisted psychopath.
The elephant in the room. Will Weirdflix be continuing?
Maybe.
That's a very good question.
Will there be new Weirdflix? I'm sure is a question a lot of you are asking. And the answer to that is a resounding maybe. I'm sure that among you viewers out there were doubters. There were naysayers. Weirdflix is done, you cried. We'll never get another video. Well, I'm here today to tell you that you couldn't be more wrong. I come today bearing good news. Like the mighty phoenix, Weirdflix ascends from the ashes, renewed and reinvigorated, and ready to present you with the absolute worst content we can possibly find. To start today's video off, I'd like to issue a few announcements. Number one, obviously, we are back, but we're going to be under a slightly different name, Weirdflix Productions. That leads into our second announcement, which is that very, very soon, for the first time ever, Weirdflix is going to be hosting another show on the channel, not starring myself or Alex. We have outsourced to a up-and-coming interviewer, and they will be interviewing different celebrities, and we will be hosting the podcast that those celebrities are interviewed on. So get ready for that. More news will be coming in time. Throughout this video, you may come to realize that we're kind of doing the dissection of the movie a little bit different, and that's based on some feedback we've gotten that Weirdflix needs to be a little less scripted and kind of a little more open. Let us know in the comments below how you think it goes, because if people like kind of the freelance off the cuff Chris and Alex, we can make more videos because I don't have to spend time writing scripts. To get us into today's video, I had to think hard about what kind of movie would be best to bring Weirdflix back with, and I had a couple of ideas in my head. People really kind of enjoy some of the classic horror movies that we've done on here, Dracula vs. Frankenstein, The Ginger Dead Man, our romantic comedies have been a hit, Vampires Suck, 1313 Giant Killer Bees, but over our break, I happened to glance at the channel and I saw that for some reason, we have almost 1,000 views on funny little cars. Now, I don't know what's driving all of you to watch that video, but clearly it means we should focus more on animated kids content. And as much as that brings me so much dismay, I am a slave to our audience. So I dug down deep into my collection and found today's movie, Spider's Web, A Pig's Tale. Let me just say that this one certainly doesn't bring home the bacon. So to preface Spider's Web a little bit, this movie you may kind of be able to tell based on the cover here, but this is actually made by the same company as one of our other films. This is made by one of our other people, An Ant's Life. I don't know if you can kind of tell based on animation quality. An Ant's Life cost me $2, whereas Spider's Web, A Pig's Tale only cost me $1, so already I gotta give points to A Spider's Web. Kind of looking at the box, as you can see, we've got a pig and a spider on the cover. This is obviously kind of a rip-off of Charlotte's Web, a book I have not read and get confused with Babe, Pig in the City. On the back of the box, it says that this movie is 60 minutes, and much like An Ant's Life, this is also a lot. The movie was 48 minutes, and it felt somewhere in between 20 minutes and an hour, depending on the part of the film. Spider's Web is a ripoff of A Charlotte's Web, which is, as Ant's Life was a ripoff of Ants or A Bug's Life. Sparkplug Entertainment is the company responsible for bringing us this movie, which is different than the one on An Ant's Life, and I can't quite figure out why that is. I can only assume that the creator of this movie spread out their works to as many companies as possible so that as many people could suffer as I have. But, that's my guess. This is not for legal reasons, this is a joke. Without further ado, there's not much more I can say about this, so let's just get into it.
Weirdflix.
Our movie starts off very jarringly, much like An Ant's Life, but instead of music and an awful caterpillar running scene, it starts off with pigs and chickens kind of coming out of random parts of the screen. One of the things you'll notice as I talk more about this movie and we progress through the plot is that it doesn't seem like the animators knew how to have characters enter and exit scenes. So what ends up happening is kind of midway through a scene where there needs to be a break in the dialogue or a joke, the animator will have a chicken pop up or a bee fly in from the side of the screen, It never looks good, it's always jarring, and I do not like it at all. So our film starts in a barnyard where we're introduced to several different characters. Now, there are a lot of characters in this film, but only 3 of them matter, 2 of them which we're about to meet right now. Our main character is Walt, whose official name is Walter Pembroke III. He's a pig. So we're introduced to Walter and his barnyard friends, which includes a couple insects, the spiders, kind of sassy spiders, the horses that are classist. They talk with a posh British accent and are always talking down about the spiders as if they're a lower class. The spiders and the horses don't get along. The chickens, which are barely in the film, and the pigs, who are, you know, kind of our main characters, our middle-class family. They're friends with the horses, they're friends with the spiders, so they're kind of the bridge. There's a bee that thinks they're a hornet, but that doesn't play into the movie at all. So our film starts out with our characters saying what they're thankful for, and they go through a couple different things. We set up some early conflicts with the horses and the spiders being classist against each other, Walter being an idiot and lying, and it's just not a good opening, and you can clearly see that their animation, I will say it's marginally better than an Ant's Life, only because it doesn't make me uncomfortable to watch. The animation is not good by any stretch of the imagination, but it's far less painful and nausea-inducing. So at the beginning of this movie, as we're kind of introduced to their characters and they go about some barnyard shenanigans, it's set up, as I mentioned, that Walter is a lie. And it's set up this way through a musical number where Walter sings a lie about how he didn't eat his mom's pie, her cherry pie, because aliens invaded. I want you to see this, to understand what I had to see.
Here's what happened. Beneath falling leaves, the pie was vulnerable to pie-loving thieves. From out of the sky, UFOs from outer space flew to see the pie. The aliens thought that pie's an enemy ship. They became distraught. It was not pretty. There was cherry pie goo everywhere.
How did you know it was a cherry pie?
Huh? Well, you must have told me.
And this is kind of our inciting incident in the movie, because everyone in the barnyard yells at Walter for being a liar and that he needs to tell the truth so that he can kind of take responsibility and be a better person. Everyone except the horses, who take a classist stance to this and say that Walter might be telling the truth because the spider gave a conflicting story where Walter ate it, and the horses don't like the spiders. I'm not super caught up on my animal biology, but I guess horses and spiders must kind of be predator-prey animals. I don't know which one is which towards each other. There are a couple different messages that are set up as the potential moral of this story, with Walter being a liar, the horses and spiders being kind of classist, and a bee trying not to be a hornet. But none of them end up resolving as the film finishes, and I'm left with an empty feeling, wishing I hadn't spent 48 minutes watching this. There is no value to this. So after Walter lies to his mother's face and everyone else in the barnyard about how he didn't eat their cherry pie, it was aliens, we see a snake with a cell phone necklace inch out of nowhere towards the barnyard. And this is a part where I noticed something in the movie that really bothered me, and that's the background. Specifically on the scene where the snake is entering, but also every other background in the film. As you can see, these backgrounds are poorly rendered, out of focus JPEG files, I'm guessing. It's worse somehow than the backgrounds in An Ant's Life, because while all the animation in that movie sucked, at least it looked okay together. Here, the characters stick out from the background so much that I can't focus on the background and have to just look on the characters. I don't want to look at the characters, of course, because I have to look at the animation then, but you gotta do what you gotta do when you're watching 48 minutes of this. So the snake comes up, and his name is Gerard, but it's spelled like J-A-R-A-R, and this is where this movie becomes kind of a Garden of Eden fable, where the snake comes in and tempts Walter into being a worse person. Because the snake agrees with Walter's lying stories. Not for classist reasons like the horse, but because this snake is evil. We get a couple more, about 10 minutes or so, of more barnyard antics, where different animals argue with each other, but most importantly, something that I want to stress, we have 2 more songs. So as this snake comes and is a bad influence on Walter, he begins to lie more and bolder than before, as he goes to walk towards his mother and knocks over a vase. After knocking over this vase, which everyone saw him do, he blatantly lies to them and says this.
A thick fog rolled in, enveloping the barnyard. Hunting did begin. Emerging alone, a ghostly phantom spirit rose up from his throne. The eerie form stopped. Tiffany jumped and scared him. He ran, the pot dropped.
I cannot stress enough why there is singing in this movie. I do not understand it. No other part of this is a musical except when Walter is lying. Do kids like musicals? Is this just something I don't know because I'm 20? I'm getting too old for this. Don't know why this is a musical, no, but it's our second one of the movie. And after this one, someone decided that we needed a third about why Walter didn't study or do his homework for the non-existent pig school he goes to.
The homework, it ate the dog. Ah! Oh, no! Math homework is tough. Long division, subtraction, those fractions are rough. When I finished primes, Spot and I played some ping pong. I beat Spot 3 times. I like ping pong too, the homework said with a grin. Spot said, go, shoot! It did not take long. The homework ate Spot quickly. Now I hate ping pong.
This is by far the worst one. I hate the way the book looks, and I hate the way it eats the dog. We're only about 15 minutes into the movie at this point. So we're a third of the way through, but already I want to shut it off. So the snake manages to convince Walter to come to Viperwood with him, which is Hollywood. And despite the place being called Viperwood, Walter sees nothing wrong with this and decides to go along, on the condition that his spider friend Tiffany can come along with them. This leads to a road trip sequence where Walter and Gerard and Tiffany stop at various places as Walter is continually tempted to do evil by this snake. Their first stop is at the famous Motel 2 Stars, where this movie goes from bad to weird. Take a look at this.
Calm down, Lucy! Walt, get ready to catch her. No! Get off this roof! It'll be okay!
I don't know what animals those are, because everything up to this point has been an animal or a sentient object. Those are aliens. Or mutated animals, since this is clearly some kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland. Never mind, fits with the movie. So, throughout this scene, Walter and Gerard are opposite ends of the moral spectrum, where Gerard wants to help this grandmother whose baby climbed up a cliff, and Gerard says, nah, the baby loves it up there, despite the horrible baby crying noises that you all heard 30 seconds ago. And then they go into the hotel. As they go to reserve a room for the night, they find out that this snake is broke, both credit card-wise and cash-wise. His card is bad and he has no money, so the snake attempts to sweet-talk the owner into letting them stay the night. This doesn't work, and they're forced to go stay with the grandmother whose baby they rescued. The grandmother says not to turn on the TV, which Gerard does immediately.
Come to Linkstown for the best sausages.
What's he talking about?
It's so bad.
One of the main questions I have is why the TV has an eyes and mouth. I guess inanimate objects are alive in this universe, except for the car, which didn't have a face or anything. So they watch a TV show that I guess is one of Viperwood's most famous shows, most popular, which is a trivia show where they ask elementary school grade questions, and if you lose, a flying tennis racket spanks you. You may think I'm lying. Here is evidence that I am not.
Welcome back. This is the final round where the stakes are paddle wackier. Your category, metrics. In what country was the metric system invented? Time is running out. I don't know! Ouch! Ow! Ow!
Now after this scene, the TV inexplicably comes to life. I mentioned earlier that it has an eyes and mouth. I did not expect the TV to also be evil, but for some reason it is, and starts causing a ruckus.
Calm down, honey. Gilbert, show your stinger. I cannot sting it. I would die.
Gerard, Tiffany, and Walter book it and begin driving down the road again, where they stop at a gas station, and again the snake's lack of money causes some trouble for our intrepid heroes. He decides to distract the owner and fill up his tank for free, which, I mean, at today's prices, you gotta do what you gotta do. So after stealing gas from a hardworking rabbit, or some other weird animal, the models in this movie are so bad, a car chase ensues, and it's about as exciting as you'd expect.
do we do?
You should have thought of that before stealing gas.
Our protagonists finally make it to Viperwood, where, after being in town for approximately 30 seconds, Gerard's assistant falls out of the sky into the car. And this begins kind of the third act of the movie. It's split up into 3 15-minute segments, as you could have guessed. The first third at the Barnyard, the second third on the road, and the third third in Viperwood. During their stay in Viperwood, Gerard sets up several different auditions for Walter to go to, as he's lured him all this way by promising that he's going to be a big star. Their first step is a Broadway audition where Gerard has lied about all of the skills that Walter has. This leads to him attempting to do ventriloquism while wearing a fishbowl on his head filled with water. Goes about as well as you'd expect.
Won't ride to swim right by.
Seeing as this scheme failed, Gerard sets up a TV show audition where he again lies about what Walter can do. During this one, Walter is put on the spanking game show and manages to get more questions right than the last contestant we've seen, but does not manage to go as far as he'd like, and thus suffers the punishment.
What color is an octopus?
Walt, tell the truth. You don't know.
Make something up.
It's too much pressure. Just run away. The truth, Walt.
Any color, Walt.
I don't know.
It's a trick question. Octopi can change color, so they can be brown, yellow, pink, or green, or other colors too.
I don't know why this is in the movie. This is, I'd say, the weirdest part, but honestly, that could go to anything in this movie. I don't want to spoil my opinion on this movie, but you should probably be able to guess how I feel about it by now. The third audition that Gerard sets Walter up for is a movie audition, where he lies about Walter being able to speak Japanese, which is important because the movie director only speaks Japanese. What ensues is one of, I can't keep saying everything in this film is the weirdest, but this part is especially weird.
Walt!
Oh God! Take that! And that! Take that!
I can't express enough how weird all of the scenes in this movie are. They feel like they're all disjointed and part of separate movies that were somehow stitched together in an attempt to make something coherent. And technically, it is coherent, but the individual scenes themselves and the things that take place in them are so bad, they're not even fun to watch. Waking up in the hospital after his injuries on the movie set, Gerard lets Walter know that he's got another audition lined up for it. This one a type of music gig for a film. It's very, shall we say, shady how it's described.
This casting director really wants you.
Yay!
You will be part of a team respected around the world for its premium content. This part will define your career. It's how you'll be remembered.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I don't like it. So they take Walter to the audition site where he begins to rap his song about being a part of the Barnyard. And it's just as bad as every other musical number in this movie.
Wherever I go, whatever I do, there's one thing I know. I'll always be true to my barnyard roots. I'm from the barnyard.
If there's one good thing I could say about an ant's life, it's that there was no singing in it. When Walter gets there, he is blindfolded, and it turns out that this has all been a trap, as Gerard plans on selling Walter to one of his friends who is going to butcher Walter for pig meat. This begins a scene where Walter is picked up by a crane and continues to rap as he is slowly pulled towards his inevitable doom.
The world is losing a nice set of pipes.
Yeah, but it's gaining some great sausage links.
It's weird that they're praising his singing skills as they're getting ready to eat him. Something about that doesn't gel right for me. I'll say one thing. It's not the worst rap I've heard in a movie. It's one of them, but it's not the worst. So Tiffany manages to rescue Walter before he becomes bacon bits, and Walter learns a lesson somehow about not lying so that he doesn't get ground up into bacon, because the snake lying led him to be picked up by the crane and he left in the first place. But Walter didn't lie during the trip, so I don't know how this is teaching him a lesson. I feel like it's teaching him a lesson about not to trust others, but Oh, it hurts my head. Our story ends with Tiffany staying in Viperwood to be new host of the racket spanking trivia show, and Walter going back to the barnyard having learned a lesson about not lying. The horses gain a newfound respect for Tiffany, and that's the end.
Hi, Weirdflix viewers. It has been a hot second. It's me, Alex, your favorite video editor here on the channel. I have two things to say. First one has to do with Spider's Web of Pig's Tail. Pretty sure that's what this movie is called. I cannot remember the name. It's a long name for a really bad animated feature film. My thing that I noticed about this movie is it felt like Gerard had definitely done the whole like killing a pig before, the way that he had that planned out of just, you know, like, oh, it's not gonna work out with Walter, let's just off him. It felt very planned. It felt very premeditated, if you will. And I feel like that was very interesting, especially that little foreshadowing of the butchering that happens in that commercial when they're watching that Slap It show at the grandmother's like motel room. So to me personally, it felt like that was very much a moment where Gerard is like a serial killer, or he's in on this like big, you know, pig murdering ring for profit. My second update is that, and this is going to be a shocker for those of you who know me IRL, this is not something that I normally do. I am taking a mental health break. In the spirit of us, you know, being a little bit more off the cuff, a little bit more open, I'm taking a break from editing for my mental health. Normally, it does not take me over a month to edit a video. However, it has taken me quite literally over a month to edit this video, and this is my second time filming this portion. I'm not permanently leaving. No worries, I will be back. While I am gone, Weirdflix is in very good, very capable hands. But I just gotta take a moment to kind of just, you know, relax, because I have been go for a very long time, and I need a little bit of a break and a little bit of a breather. But I love you all so much, and I am so thankful for y'all understanding. And I will be back. So yeah, anyways, I'll give it back to Chris. Mwah.
What can I say about this movie? I'll tell you this much. I liked it better than An Ant's Life. Now you may be saying, that's not a high bar to clear, Chris. You hated An Ant's Life. And that's true. Because while that movie was shorter, it dragged on for so long. And while there were some bits that were so strange as to make it enjoyable, after about 5 minutes, the movie felt like nails on a chalkboard. A Spider's Web never quite reaches that same level of nails on a chalkboardness. It's bad, don't get me wrong. It's almost so bad that it's not enjoyable. But I think if you watched it, you wouldn't hate it. Certainly not as much as An Ant's Life. Spider's Web is in that precarious category of almost being too weird that it's not entertaining, while still being bad enough that it can be entertaining. It's treading the line between bad and good very thin. That's why my final rating for this movie is going to be a D on our Weirdflix scale. I don't remember what we put Ant's Life at, so hopefully it's at the same level. So I believe this movie deserves a D rating because it is dreck. It's not uber entertaining or uber good. I can't really recommend that you should watch this movie. Only do it if you saw An Ant's Life and want to see something by the same creators, if you love poorly animated kids movies, or if you want to watch everything that Weirdflix has to offer. I would not rewatch this movie unless I had to. I certainly wouldn't watch it 5 times like I've seen in Ant's Life. It made 48 minutes feel only a little longer than 48 minutes, which with a movie like this is as good as it's gonna get. Thank you very much for joining us on this brand new style of Weirdflix, and for taking the first step into the future of Weirdflix Productions with us. I hope you'll continue to return and enjoy the videos that we put out for you, as we strive to entertain here at Weirdflix Productions. We're going to attempt to be getting videos out as consistently as possible, as often as possible. But as for today, I'm afraid I'll have to end our time together. I hope you found this video enjoyable. Come back next week when we'll be reviewing The Calamari Wrestler. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, Weirdflix watches what no one else will.
Beneath falling leaves, the pie was vulnerable to pie-loving thieves.